One possible solution is to say, well, we're going to set a date that's as far as we go back. Right? In law, we call this a statute of limitations. Okay. So sometimes we'll say, okay, for certain crimes, after 10 years, you can't be prosecuted. So we'd say, okay, has to be traced back through a series of voluntary transfers, either to original acquisition or at least back to a certain period of time, right? And we'll just assume that starting at that period of time, we'll treat things as if they were just, and we'll just move forward from there. Well, what's the problem here? Well, we have to think of a date. I know, let's do 1870. Right? Now, what's the problem with 1870? Well, 1870 just conveniently happens to be after the Civil War. So what that means is, essentially, we're leaving all the property that was obtained through slavery intact. Right? That means that all the people who acquired their wealth through directly exploiting the slaves, right, remains theirs. Okay. It also means that all the people who got their money through textile mills, right, that managed to get their profit through cheap cotton produced by slaves, get to keep their property. Okay. And all of the money that was made by people who illegally outfitted slave ships, okay, get to keep their property. And to really extend it outward, the people who managed to save up money because they had cheaper clothing, because of cheaper textiles, because of exploiting the slaves, get to keep their property. Right? All the people who made their money through various sorts of government offices that were run with taxes on slavery get to keep their property. Go down the list. Right? And of course, the big thing, the descendants of the slaves don't, or the former slaves, if we're talking 1860, 1870, don't get anything in compensation, right? Because the massive injustice about them just happened to happen right before our cutoff date, which just coincidentally happens to be at the point where we can shut them out of their legitimate property claims. Right? Okay, well, maybe it would be better if we set it further back. Okay, so let's set it let's say 1500, or let's say 1600. Well, what's the problem with 1600? Well, it just happens to conveniently ignore, right, many of the injustices against Native Americans. Of course, there were ongoing injustices, so presumably we compensate for that. Right? But it just happens to be set so essentially white people can keep their property and don't have to give their due to Native Americans. Okay, well, let's set another time. Let's say 1100. Well, that's great, but that's just after the fall, or pardon me, let's set it in 1480, right? Before we stole lots of things from Native Americans. Well, that's great, but that's right after the fall of Byzantium, which means that a lot of injustices against the Greeks wouldn't be compensated for, etc. Right? So you see the problem, right? If we try to set a date, well, anywhere we set it is going to be cheating somebody, right? And we can bet, right, that the date we're going to set is going to just conveniently happen to be somewhere where we don't have to compensate for certain injustices. Okay. So setting a statute of limitations, it does not seem like a way to solve the problem. Or if it's solving the problem, it's not in a way that's moving things towards justice.